You're listening to another episode of the Fredericksburg Strong podcast. This is a local forum to inform and entertain our community, discuss local news, promote small businesses, and celebrate our hometown heroes with a little dose of humor to keep you entertained. Our mission is simple: to keep Fredericksburg strong. Today's podcast is powered by Pohanka Nissan and Pohanka Hyundai of Fredericksburg. And now, here's your host, Tim Pohanka.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's Tim Pohanka, and I'm here with Fredericksburg Strong. I have with me a guest that I have known for so long. I mean, we go back. We're brothers from another mother. I've got Sam Vukas from Dealery Process.
Hey, everybody.
So, Sam, your role for us at the dealership and why we have you on here is you're an expert in digital and in web design and what goes on websites. And one thing that,
More of a compliment than I would give myself.
well, you've earned it. You've earned it for sure. But one thing that a lot of people have asked me, especially small businesses around here, they've asked about what we do. But more importantly, they're asking what we do in the space of digital retailing, which is now the big buzzword that everyone wants to talk about. And when they're looking at buying a car online, what technology is really out there that allows people to do that?
So, I mean, it's a combination of a few things. You got to remember what it takes to make a car sale, and it's not easy. You've got to know what their equity and their trade position is going to be. You got to know their credit score. They've got to understand their taxes, and then it comes down to special financing rates and standard. What I think we've done as far as a really good job with digital retailing is our application, Sarah, which you do use on your site. And I know that you've had some really good success with it. And one of the things that we always like to remind our dealers is it's not just about what it does for them, it's about what it does for the consumer, which is really kind of the stance that we took when building Sarah. Was it is consumer driven. So we're just here to help them be able to buy a car online and get most of it done online.
So when people look at sites like Carvana, or they look at Drive, or they look at some of these other online retailers that talk about how they're able to do that, the ability for your local dealership to do an entire purchase online has been there for years. But now you've been able to bring new technology to the plate. So you mentioned about making it more consumer friendly. What are the changes, or what makes yours more consumer friendly than, say, some of the other people that's out there?
Well, let's be honest, it's the second largest purchase you're going to make. You're not buying a new iPhone. You're not buying an iPad. You're not buying a gift for somebody. I mean, you're going to spend $20,000, $30,000, $40,000. People still need to see it. People still need to sit in the car. They need to feel it. They need to be excited about it. And really, some of these more committal ones that require down payment, driver's license upload, insurance card upload, it's a bit much, to be honest with you, for what your general consumer is looking to do. We find most people just want to know what their payment's going to be, how their trade affects their payment, how their credit score affects their payment. It still shocks me to this day. There's a lot of people that don't understand that their credit position actually changes what rates that they qualify for. There's still people that don't understand that.
Now, one of the strengths to the program you have is that customers don't have their credit necessarily pulled. It's a soft pull that goes on there. So when they're looking at a spectrum on a site that you all have, they're getting a full understanding of what their rate should be, what their terms should be, what their car should be. But that doesn't mean they have to go the whole way on that purchase. They can just get that information.
That's correct. And you hit the nail on the head. And that's exactly what we were shooting for. Is too often people look at just the price and go, I don't know what that means for me. I don't know how much I owe on my car. I don't know what my car's worth. I don't know what my credit position affords me to get. I don't know what this looks like if I roll taxes in, if there's not taxes included. It's really an educational piece. We built something that we wanted to grow with the dealer market, that we wanted to grow with the consumer base. But remember, we can talk about this all day long, but the consumers don't know what it is. If you walk up to somebody on the street and say, hey, does the dealership you bought your car from offer digital retailing? They're going to go, I have no idea what that means. So we wanted to make something that got them the information. We're finding that the general public and where they're going to make purchases, it's based on who they feel like they can trust. And if they can trust you to provide them the information and understand what it's going to take to buy this car, they're going to be the people that do business.
So given that trust and understanding model, is it a dealer's, so obviously it's a dealer's responsibility to get the word out that they can do this, that it's available.
It has to be a brand. It's got to be spread throughout your entire dealership.
And then the other part that goes into it, I think, and that we've found, and I want to talk about this more so than some of the other things that I could talk to you about. When you're looking at how websites are put together and where people click and where they're going to, that's, it's one thing for me to look at a website and say it looks really good to me. It's another thing to make it user friendly. So how do you find that difference between user friendly, all that functionality? If someone's out there looking at their website and they're looking at what they're going to do, whether it's an automotive or whether it's just for a mom and pop store down the street selling teacups, how is that website put together that's going to make that difference for them?
So there's a thing called Hick's Law, and my entire development team and product owners follow this throughout everything that they design. And there is a proven formula that states the more options you give someone, the less likely they are to interact with somebody. So it's like if you set them at a table, you put 15 blocks in front of them and you say, pick one. They're going to sit there and they're going to take their time to look at every single 15 and find out which one that they want that's going to fit best for them. If you give them two and you say, pick one, that choice has now decreased so immensely that it's so much easier to make a choice. And we know what consumers are looking for online. They want answers. They want to know, what does $38,000 mean for me? And I see the ads that say 0%, but I don't know if I can get it. Do I get 0? Do I get 1.9? So we want to make it as simple as possible. We want to create a commerce-driven website, which is what we're striving to do. And we've got some pretty cool stuff that we're actually working on that I maybe can't talk about on this podcast, but we can talk about it at a later date. But the whole goal is to get rid of this form fatigue, I'm going to your website and I want to buy something, but I need to fill something out and you'll get back to me. We're one of the last industries that does this. When you look at the industries that do, for example, like fencing, the only reason I bring it up is because I have to get a fence put around my yard because of my dog. And I went to the site and I realized it's still like automotive. I can't look or configure what my estimate might be based on the distance of fence or material that I want. I thought that was completely asinine. I had to fill out a lead form and then wait for somebody to call me and then they got to schedule a visit. I'm like, can you just tell me? Like, what the material costs per foot. Just give me an estimate.
Yeah, it's funny you should say that because with COVID going on here, we were looking at outdoor spaces. And yesterday I was looking at buying a pergola for the dealership to put outside. And just like you said, I'm looking back at, this is a pretty big purchase when I started to look at the prices of them. But in order to get a final quote or to build it the way I was looking, fill out a quote, send it back in, and someone will get back to me. Is that a showing? Now, is that something that shows that automotive and automotive consumers are more demanding? Is that technology for our industry is so much further advanced? What do you think brings that out?
What brings it out is the fact that a Hyundai Sonata is a Hyundai Sonata, no matter where you get it from. There's a MSRP and there's a dealer net cost, and there's, based on the taxes in the area that you live. The other industries, like we talk about, like the pergola and, fencing, things like that, it can be so custom. It can be different in size. It can be different everywhere else. So that industry, for example, hasn't had a need to push change. But at the end of the day, a car is a car. The point of buying it from a different dealership is the culture, it's the dealership, it's the amenities, it's the service level, it's the people. And that's all the great selling point. But just like we dealt with years ago when people didn't want to put pricing on vehicles, now if you go to a dealership website and there's no price, customers leave. They don't care. And payments are going to be the same thing. It's going to eventually get to a point that if you don't offer the consumer what they're looking for in their research, you're out of the game.
So when you bring that up, you talked about the dealership and selling the dealership culture. Where does that fit in to a space where someone's just looking for price?
So if you still have someone that's just looking for price, you're not really building digital retailing for that consumer. That consumer is going to be the person that still wants to walk into the showroom. They still want to sit down. They want to negotiate. You're still going to have those people. But the tool's there for them to be able to work that, to understand their payment. The trade-in portion is there for them to be able to work and understand what the value of their car is. The credit portion is there. And again, the people that don't want to find a payment, that are just price concerned, they're not going to be the people that are going to fill out a lead on your website anyways. And if they did, it's because they clicked get e-price because they thought it was a lower price, which we all know that doesn't send you a different price.
So when you look at all the different clients that you have and all of the different manufacturers that you have, and you look at all of the differences and all the requirements that they're all asking for, are these requirements fads that they're looking at, or they think that they're future? Or, when I'm starting to look at what they're asking us to do on our sites, and I'm going, okay, you want to be able to do this and this and this and this. Are those some of these things what consumers want, or are there just things that they're reacting to because of the environment that we're in temporarily?
Both is the easiest way I can put it. There are definitely things that were reactionary. Some I agree with, some I don't. There were things that were reactionary that were good because they opened the eyes of some manufacturers as to what's capable and what is not capable. It was a really good conversation starter for automotive in general, as far as how dealers interact with vendors and vendors interact with OEMs. But I'm pretty proud of all of the OEM partners and the things that they've wanted to do, and the things that they initially came out and said, but then kind of rolled back a little bit. I think it's been an overall net positive for the industry because, again, nobody at the OEM level, I think, took a hard look at some of these things. They kind of let the vendors just dictate what was possible and what wasn't. So now that we have a little bit more buy-in from manufacturers and they're actually wanting to get involved a little bit more from the top level down, I think we're going to see a lot of positive change moving forward.
So two of the vendors that I deal with most, OEMs that I deal with, are Nissan and Hyundai, and they're both taking a strikingly different approach to trying to battle these topics we've talked about. When you look at it from manufacturer to manufacturer, is there one manufacturer that's really getting it right, or one that's more on top of it than the other?
I think they're all kind of getting in the right spot at the right time. We were fortunate enough to be partnered with the Toyota Smart Path program. And I've got to say, from a level of execution on their part, it has been a great journey, us working with them. We continue to work with them. We've also done Lexus Smart Path with them. And it's funny that I say this because their Smart Path product is a direct competing product to our product, Sarah. You can't have both on a website. It's one or the other. Right now, we actually do have both. We are helping out for Smart Path right now because they don't have the used market quite figured out yet. So Toyota and Lexus has allowed us to go ahead and use our digital retailing tool for used cars for the dealers, while Smart Path powers all their new cars. But our visions, I would say, as two separate companies, align very much with where we think DR is and where it needs to go.
So when we look at the other online retailers that are out there, when you look at a Carvana or Drive and these ones that are out there,
I love that we always come back to Carvana.
Pardon me?
I love that we always continue to come back to Carvana.
Well, the reason why I'm coming back to that is I'm going to use it as an example of FedEx. If I ask you to send me a package overnight, usually I'm going to tell you just FedEx it to me. I'm not going to say it could come UPS. It could come, it could come from the post office. It can come from DHL. It can come from any number of ways to get there. Heck, you could send it to me carrier pigeon for all I know. But when we've gotten to the point that it's a FedEx it to me or a Xerox it for me or whatever those things are, when those name brands get associated with that product, that's kind of where it keeps coming back to, oh, that's a Carvana or that's a this. So that's where I guess what I'm asking is, do we think that it's a lot of this could be, hey, we got to compete with Carvana because we have to compete with Carvana, or is it we have to compete with Carvana because they happen to be taking up the biggest the space on the airwaves right now, talking about a technology that some people may or may not like?
I don't think you should compete with Carvana at all. I think you should align with Carvana. And what I mean by that is ride the coattails of what they've taught their customers. They're a national brand. They can spend the money. They can go after the CarMaxes. They can get on OTT. They can get on cable network. They can have one unified message about buying online and contactless drop off and all these other things. Ride the hell out of those coattails. Make your messaging very similar. Talk about, a Carvana-like experience. They're doing the industry a huge favor right now by breaking down that barrier of customers understanding what's possible from a dealer level. The only thing that they have on dealerships is that they control what is required for paperwork and financing and what lenders they work with, et cetera, as to where you're a little bit more hamstrung in wet signatures and doing business on property and some other items. But that doesn't mean by any stretch that you're behind the game. Like, you're right there with them, and customers don't understand that. The same way that it still takes customers a lot to understand that servicing their vehicle at the dealership doesn't really cost that much more money. It's not a lot. It's a little bit more, but the quality and service level you're getting are different. That's what you're paying for. So it's the same. It's the same argument.
It's funny because I bring that up to you, my question on that, because I remember sitting in a room with people who were investors asking me about TrueCar and saying, well, oh my God, TrueCar is going to save the industry thousands upon thousands of dollars. It's going to lower transactional costs. It's the wave of the future. And if you look today, TrueCar is battling to stay alive. It was a technology. It was out there when it was being advertised. It was great. But at the end of the day, the delivery of the product didn't meet the expectation that was being set for it. That's kind of where I'm going on that. Is that the same type of thing we're talking about with this in Carvana?
Yeah, I think so. But here's the thing. Customers are seeing the trucks on the road. They're seeing it. It's translating down to the consumer level. TrueCar, well, yes, it translated down to the consumer level. It wasn't on the road. They didn't see people actually getting what TrueCar was promising. You heard about it. They had the testimonials. People used it. Carvana, it's physical. You see the car vending machines. You see the trucks. You see everything else. And it ingrains the message into your brain about how you can do business with a dealership.
So really, it is just about branding. I mean, that's really what I'm getting from you is that, how well you brand your sites or how well you brand your store is what's going to make that difference in that type of retail space.
You cannot slap on a DR system and just think it's going to be this silver bullet. You've got to be able to go in head first into the deep end of this. You've got to have buy-in from your managers, from your sales staff. You've got to have a plan for your CRM. You've got to get rid of your autoresponders. You've got to slim down your site. There is so much to the playbook that is digital retailing that if you're willing to do it, it will work well for you.
Yeah, it's really interesting that you brought up about the culture. I remember hearing, we as you know, we've been with the dealer digital retailing tool for a couple of years. And when Corona hit, I had people call me and say, hey, what's this tool you're using? How do I get it hooked up tomorrow? And I said, hey, if you want to get it hooked up tomorrow and get it working, that's not going to happen. It is a full spectrum of where do you sit with your staff? Do your managers understand the pricing? Are you willing to sell the car for the price that you have online? Is there going to be truth in that advertising? And that's been a shock for a lot of people about it because it is more of an open, transparent process.
It is. And I'm glad you said that because the transparency and openness of the process is what people fear. It is what drives people away from wanting to do it. It's the
when you keep on when you're saying people, it's not the consumer, it's the dealer.
Correct. Yes. When I'm saying people, it's the dealers, and it's the old school mentality of if we give them too much information, they're going to take it and go elsewhere. That's not the sentiment of the current market of people buying. The sentiment of people buying is I'm going to go with the company that's going to give me the honest answer. I'm going to go path of least resistance. I'm going to pay more for a better experience, and that's the current state of retailing. No matter where you're going. Whether it's automotive, it's fashion, it's electronics, it doesn't matter. People are going to pay for better experience. And if you can provide them that, you just won that customer.
So when you say that, a lot of people like to compare the dealership experience to what they get at Amazon. And an Amazon experience it's very difficult to put into a car transaction.
100%.
And, because when I look at it, when you go to Amazon, you got choices galore. Oh, I give this car or this choice, this thing, and you're looking at all these different items. When you're looking at a car, there's no real site that's ever going to give you that same type of choice because manufacturers hold it.
But correct, and there are other examples to follow, and I think you've heard me say this one before. And I'm not pushing this by any stretch of the imagination because they don't have a program and we're not doing business with them. But Tesla's entire model of how they sell cars online, it's a speck of brilliance that I think everybody needs to respect in the auto industry. And I know you can make the argument about profitability and how long they've been in the black and how, we can slice that a million ways. The fact of the matter is they've recognized that consumers want to be able to shop, get the information. They want to build the car. They want to understand what they're going to order. If they want to order, let them do it. If they don't, give them a showroom to go look at the car. If you understand what they do in the showrooms and you understand that all of their salespeople are not salespeople, they're product experts. They're like the people when you walk in and you go to Apple and they're talking to you about the phone or the laptop. They know everything that there is about it. They're not commissioned to sell you that car. They are paid to make sure you understand the brand and understand the vehicle. And it's a pickup process. It's an experience. It's a white glove handoff. It's the whole thing. That is really what I personally would strive to do in a dealership is give them that type of experience. And again, scary as it may sound, and we can do this on another podcast, but pay structures for salespeople. How old are they? Let's look at how they're structured. Like, if you're going to change how they're going to represent the vehicles in the showroom and sell to consumers and et cetera, they can't be paid the same old way that they were paid before. You can't run Saturdays where you're putting dots on cars because they've been sitting too long and you're getting spiffs and now you're trying to get people in certain vehicles. That's not the point. You've got to rethink it from the ground up. And we'll get there eventually. I don't think everybody will, but we will get there to a point eventually. And I'm not saying all of this is 100% accurate, but it's things that we need to try because it's the experiences that people are getting elsewhere. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, the nice thing about COVID-19, if you had to pick a nice thing, is that businesses have explored and experimented with new things, whether it's new hours, new pay plans, new cycles, things that were, I tell the story all the time is that once we first found out the extent of what this was going to be, I cleaned my office out. And people were going, what are you doing? Because I threw out every magazine, every article, everything that had been in there about the car industry.
Anything that's left. I did the same thing. I cleared this whole room out.
Yeah, I go, this is all so old now, it's no longer relevant for what's going to go on in our future. But you brought up Tesla,
Yep.
and I think it's an interesting model to talk about. In the Tesla model, consumers aren't looking at going to individual dealerships. They're buying the cost of a Tesla in Tennessee is the same cost of a Tesla in California, is the same cost of a Tesla in Illinois, is the same cost in Maine. And with that type of structure, you do have a different way of coming to market. And I hear everyone talk about, oh, Tesla's a technology company. No, they're a car company that has nice technology. But is the American consumer ready for a point that they're willing to look at, well, the cost of a Nissan or a cost of a Toyota or a cost of a Hyundai is the same in Texas as it is in Alabama, as it is Maryland, as it is in Florida, as it's in Washington State.
But why wouldn't it be? Like, let me just pose that question back to you. Why wouldn't it be? It's a consumer product. It should be the same value no matter what state it's in. At the end of the day, we can all argue about the race to the bottom and who's showing the lowest payment or lowest price, and are you stacking rebates people can't get? You could talk about the competitive nature of that, but I feel like that's such a rudimentary competitive scale of like, we're going to go with the lowest and just keep jabbing the guy to your left. That's just going to drive it down for everybody. It's not going to make any sense. Am I a fan of map pricing? We can get into that on another day. I'm not going to go into that one now, but at the end of the day, a Nissan Altima is a Nissan Altima. Why should it matter? I should want to buy from you because you're Tim Pohanka, and I know the kind of experience I'm going to get when I come to Pohanka Nissan. That should be
I would say that's it's an interesting point. It's just difficult to see how that is ever going to transpire. Look, when you look at what people love to talk about, they love to talk about what they negotiated their car for. When I'm at a party or if I'm out at an event, people love telling me, for some reason, they love telling me what they paid for their car and how much they got off on it.
I've never changed my mind so quickly before on a statement that I've made until you just said that, because to this day I talk about how I got my 2016 Hyundai Sonata Sport for 16 grand because I knew a manager that was at the store and I got the rebates, and it was 2017 when I got it, so I got extra money off. So you're right. But do we really want to continue to sell products to where we got to negotiate to that level?
That's the example of where does culture equal, culture. Where's that culture? How is it going to change, or where we're going to go with that? Which is really what we're talking about through all of this. Sorry for throwing that out there real quick and making you have to.
No, that was the perfect follow-up. If I could say that there was a best response to what I just said, and actually get me to stop in my tracks and think for a minute, you're right. There are people that their entire enjoyment of the car purchase is negotiating and getting that price level for it.
I will tell you.
Right. I'll give you.
I will tell you. This is one of my favorite stories from my salesperson days. I would say probably a second week selling cars, and this older lady came in the store. I would say she was probably in her upper 60s, and she wanted a specific car, asked for the price. We gave her the price, and my manager at the time said, "That's the best we're going to do. That's it." And she said, "Okay, well, if that's the best you can do, I'm going to leave then." And she got up to leave, and the sales manager came over and started talking to her. And she looked him in the eye and said, "Is that the best you can do?" And he said, "Yes, ma'am, that's the best we can do." She got up, left, walked around the building, and walked in the other entrance and came back in and sat down at my desk and said, "Okay, I'm ready to buy the car." And I go, "What changed your mind that quickly?" And she goes, "Oh, you were going to let me leave. If you're going to let me leave, it's a good enough deal. I'm ready to go. My time is more important to me than anything else, so let's go." And it always stuck with me about, oh my gosh, you can read books, you can go to any website, you can go to 1,000,001 different things. She just walked right in, said, "Is that the best you could do?" Someone said, "Yeah, they were going to let you leave." And she's like, "I'm happy. It's a fair deal. I'm out of here."
It was either it was the best deal she was going to get, or that dealership they were selling enough cars that it didn't matter.
It was a good deal. I remember that. And just thinking, oh my gosh, what a great way for someone to do that. So what's the future? What can you tell us about the future? What's the peek behind the digital curtain going to look like?
So the peek behind the digital curtain, and God forbid any competitors hear this conversation. So I'll try to keep it as vague as possible, and you and I can talk about this a little more offline. It's getting away from the gotchas, all these little forms and programs and applications, and how many times can you get someone's first name, last name, email, phone number, address, city, state, zip, et cetera, until you consider them a customer? When are we going to get away from the feedback that I call leads and start moving towards a consumer-based experience? And that's the future. That truly is. It's getting off of this ADF XML train. It's getting off of the, oh, well, my site performance is rated on leads. Sam Vukas can only send in, one interest to Pohanka Nissan. Even if I send you 8 different cars I'm interested in, that doesn't mean your site's performing any better. That just means I'm a more active person that's engaging with your site. But then you got to ask yourself, why in the hell am I sending you 8 different leads on 8 different cars when all I'm trying to tell you is, hey, I want to buy a Hyundai? Like, it's completely asinine to keep going down this path. Will CRM still have a place? I think so. Do they have a lot of work that they have to do? I do believe so. The reason I think that CRMs will always have a place in this business is, let's say you're on dealery process for 7 years, okay? And you've got all this great data in your dashboard, and all you do is do everything out of your dashboard. Now, all of a sudden, you go over to Dealer Fire. What do you do with that data? If it's proprietary to us and it's not in a structure that can be transferred, you're shit out of luck. So really, what I want to see in the future is I want to see CRMs kind of rethink how you actually do customer management, customer retention. Like, that's why are you doing so many duplicate leads and assigning them to somebody's name? So I really think that there's a lot of room for growth, not only from the vendors, but also from the technology as far as the data structures of CRMs go, DMSs, et cetera. it really needs to get down to a one-to-one. It needs to get down to, if I raise my hand and I say, Tim, I want to do business with you, that you can manage me as a client and manage my expectations without text messages, phone calls, autoresponders, cat and mouse games of showing, price is here, but the price is here, and doing all these different things. It needs to become a consumer-centric model. And that's really where I see this kind of going to, especially now. People now have concerned themselves, dealers now have concerned themselves even more with the consumer experience and reaching out to their customers and getting those specific customers in the door, rather than just feeling safe and secure knowing that those leads are flowing in from the website into their CRM. They're focusing more on it, and I'm happy to see it.
So how much is big data going to really start driving some of these experiences down the road?
Jury's out. If you would have talked to me a year and a half ago, I would have had a different response. If you talked to me 3 years ago, I would have had a different response. The reason it's still skeptical as far as what big data is going to drive in the future is what the government's going to regulate. And right now, if the government doesn't do it, it's the tech companies. I can tell you right now, it's getting very, very difficult to get data out of people using the Safari browser, out of the Firefox browser. It'll be even harder with the Chrome browser coming up soon. Tech companies are taking it in their hands and in their power to start preventing cross-site tracking and retargeting and privacy. And you hear about this all the time about Facebook selling user data. It's going to continue to be the Wild West until something comes in or someone comes in and polices it. And then we're going to have to rethink the strategy. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting. But if you look at big data in the sense of using your own, I think that's an untapped market in automotive that people still need to figure out. I remember taking all my DMS records and going X amount of days of like, oh, well, they haven't had service in 2 years or older, so send them a mailer, and using things like that. There's so much better ways to use the data right now. You have a wealth of information in your DMS that I think is untapped potential. So if you talk big data that way and using AI modeling to understand consumer trends to help better merchandise and market your vehicles, that will work. But unfortunately, when everybody talks big data, it's how can I buy more customer information? How can I identify anonymous shoppers? How can I do all these different things? Because let's be honest, even the best websites form-wise convert at 3 to 4%. So you're going to tell me of the $20,000 you spend on a monthly Google budget and Bing budget and Facebook, that of all the people you've driven to your website to understand what Tim Pohanka does at Pohanka Nissan and Pohanka Hyundai and how you sell cars, you're only at 3%. That's a horrible number. I've never liked that number. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I will tell you that we had a restaurant tour talk to me and asked about what we spend a month on advertising. And when I told him, I watched his jaw hit the ground when he heard the number because it is a lot of money. Yeah, it's a lot of money. Well, Sam, I really appreciate it. We've been on here for about 40, 45 minutes. Thank you so much for the information you've given me or given everyone here. Welcome to Fredericksburg on our Fredericksburg Strong website. So we appreciate that. And I appreciate what you're wearing. I mean, I love the Goonies shirt there.
My Goonies shirt, yes, this is fine. It's COVID, so I'm just wearing all my favorite graphic tees around because, I mean, what am I putting a polo shirt on for right now?
Exactly. I mean, I thought maybe that's the new dress code out there. So I thought, wow, maybe Chicago's the place to be.
On a regular given day, I do wear this to the office, even when we are in full swing. So it's not anything different.
So in one of those drawers behind you is a shirt, a tie, a pair of slacks, and.
No, none of them. I have a polo. I take that back. I have a polo shirt, a pair of golf shorts for the off chance that I need to go to a course, for business.
For business. Oh yeah, for business. Yeah, I love how tech guys get to go out on business trips now. Hey, thank you so much. Look forward to seeing you when we next can get together. It's a pleasure to talk to you.
Thanks, Tim. I appreciate it.
This is Tim Pohanka for Fredericksburg Strong. Thank you to my friend Sam Vukas talking to us about websites, and we'll see you again next week.
Thanks for listening to the Fredericksburg Strong podcast. Be sure to visit fredericksburgstrong.com to join the conversation, access the show notes, and discover our fantastic bonus content, as well as submit a request for you or your organization to appear on one of our future episodes. See you next time with another exciting episode of Fredericksburg Strong.